Hi, so today I'm going to show you a really cool thing that you could do in Google Sheets. So if you put it in the correct answer, it'll color it in. I did an emoji. If you get the question wrong, it'll turn red and you could always erase it and it'll turn back to white and then they'd have to get the question correct. So I'm just going to fill in the rest of it. So that's what it would look like. And I'm going to show you how to do it. So the first step, I'm going to get you from a completely blank sheet, spreadsheet, to this step right here. So first thing I'm going to do, I like to make a border for my assignment. I just color in black, and then I do the same thing on this top corner. I like to move over my first column. And then the next thing I like to do is go ahead and show my lines just so you can see what I'm doing here in just a few seconds. Now I'm currently at B2. I'm going to click it and I'm going to click insert an image in the cell. And I'm going to just go to my photos. You can upload something to go ahead, and I like to push control to select, and then I right click. Nope, it's not right click. It's right here. This one where it says merge cells. So then it takes up the whole picture. You can merge the cells before the picture is inserted or after the picture is inserted, and you could even merge more cells. I like to skip a line and then do the same thing. And so I'll show you that it works whether you merge first or insert the picture first. You'll still get the same thing. So then I'm going to insert a image inside the cell, and I'm going to keep doing that. And it even works for Bitmojis or any kind of GIF that you have. It works the same way. As long as it has space for it, it works. So I'm going to do that. And then I also like to color in my background. So I'd come over here and I fill it. And then right next door, I like to turn that one white, change the settings on like how thick the border is, just so my students can see that's where I'm going to put my answer. So I just color those in white. Once you have them, you can copy and paste. So if you do the whole row, it's good for formatting. But if you do inside the sheet, it still does all the formatting and you get the pictures. So now that we have that, the next step I want to get to is actually making our picture and making it look like pixel art. So first thing you need is a picture that you want to use. So I'm going to put this border here, and I'm just going to copy that line. I'm going to come over here, copy it, and bring it over here. Notice if you copy it with the row, it already shrinks it to that same size. I like that. And then here, so that I can make all of them these little tiny boxes, I'm going to come up to these columns. And I'm actually going to push shift so I can select a whole bunch of them. You could always choose to make it bigger or smaller depending on how your pixel picture looks. The more complicated your pixel picture is, the more spaces you're going to need. So I would say pick an easier one to do. I right click and I'm going to hit resize columns. And I'm going to, right now it's at 100, like 100%. I'm going to put it at 20. No, I want it at 25 because then it looks kind of weird. And pick the one, like play with it. I like 25. It looks almost like a box. Yeah, so now that we have it sized, so what you're going to do is color it in by using the fill-in tool. This is going to be a little lengthy of a step, and it's not the only time that we're going to do this step. So I did a smiley face, so I'm just coloring it in pink. And then I would go in with whatever pattern I'm doing and pick the different colors for whatever section I'm doing. If I wanted to do the yellow, I would click yellow and so on. So you could pause me if you want and work on that, but I'm gonna go ahead and go on to the next step. So after you finish it should look something like this if you did a smiley face, but I colored in my whole thing using in that fill color tool. So my next step is to make it to where my boxes turn green for a correct answer, white for a blank answer, and red for a wrong answer. I'm going to click my answer section where right now I currently have the letter A, and I'm going to right click. And if I scroll down, I see this conditional formatting. I want to open that up, and notice it says apply to range C3. So the reason it says C3 is because it's in the column C in the third row. Okay, so that's good. I want it to say if the text is exactly, and under value, I'm going to put letter A. So if it's exactly A, notice how it already turned green because my text box already has the letter A. It's already green, but I like to make it a bold green. And you could also do custom colors. I'll show you that in just a second. So I also want a condition for if it's wrong. So I'm going to add another rule. And this time I'm going to write if it's not empty. So I'm selecting if it's not empty. I'm going to come over here to fill color. And I want it to look wrong. So I'm going to pick red. But if you wanted to, you could also do a custom color. But I'm just going to go with a basic red. And then I click done. Now, if you switch these go in order. So if I do cell is not empty, it's going to count it as red because this is the first rule. And technically the A means that the cell is not empty. So it's going to say, oh, that's true. I'm going to stop. So I'm going to go ahead and switch them so that the first rule that it has is that the text is A, and if that's correct, it stops and doesn't color it red. And I'm going to do that for each one. So I'm going to come over to B, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to add a rule. Notice here it says C7, so C, column C. Row 7 is where I have my space. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing here. I want it to be the text is exactly E this time. And then I'm going to add another rule. If it's not empty, I want it to be red. And so you should be able to see that it turns white when it's empty. Anytime I could put anything here, I could put a number, a letter, an emoji, anything that's not empty, it'll turn red. Okay, so I'm going to continue on that. You can pause it and finish the rest of your answers. And we're going to go ahead and move on to this next step. So I just finished up all of my conditioning. And so now we're going to come to where we're going to make true statements. Woo, this one's kind of crazy because there is some formula writing that you need to do. I also added a extra line here, which I didn't do in the video. So what I did, I right-clicked and inserted one to the right. And then I copied from here and made it here so it's the same size. And you're going to need to copy 2 more sections so that I have some working space so I can write my formulas. So I'm going to insert one to the right and another one to the right. And I'm going to change the color of this. We're just going to do the whole thing. I'm also going to spread these out a little bit so I have more space. Okay, so now I need to make statements for each box of the pixel. So I'm going to pick a color that I want my answers for. So for example, every time they select the letter A, I want certain boxes to be pink. So every time an A shows up, I'm going to have pink. So I'm just going to write all my answers here. I have all these options, and then I'm going to pick what colors I want attached to that problem. So I'm going to pick this color for A, picked gray for B, so I just picked the colors that are in here. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to write an equation to represent this being true. So what that's going to look like, I'm going to come over here to this pink box here, and I'm going to type in the formula section. And if you don't have the formula thing available, you can type in here as well. It'll show up. So it'll show up here or here. So I'm going to type equals, and then I'm going to identify where my answer is. So currently my answer is at C3. So I could either click it or type it. I clicked it for this time and it automatically showed up. Notice how it's already saying it equals A, but I'm going to go ahead and write that in my formula. So I want to have equals C3 equals, and then in quotes, the letter A. If you were to do a different one like decimals and you wanted your answer to be 0.7, here you would write quote 0.7 end quote. So whatever your answer is, notice how it says true. If I get rid of the letter A, it says false. Or if I put a different thing, it says false. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing for B. So B, the answer for B is currently at C7. So I'm going to do the same thing. Equals C7 equals quote B, end quote. I'm going to do that here. For letter C, I'm going to do equals. And C is at C11 equals quote C, end quote. For letter D, it is at F3. So again, I could touch it and it does it for me. And I want it quoted as letter D. E, I put equals, touch it, equals, quote, E, end quote. Last one. Okay, so now what you're gonna do is you're gonna change it to these weird codes instead of true and false statements. I'm gonna select all of these, and then I'm gonna go ahead and go to edit and find and replace. Under find, I'm gonna put equal and I'm gonna replace it with a random word that's not gonna be in my sheet. So I put Jord. I also want to search within formulas. And I'm going to click replace R. Notice right now it says equals C3 equals quote a quote. And once I replace, it should change it here. That's because Google Sheets likes to do some crazy stuff if I try to copy and paste with the equal sign. So now is going to be kind of a crazy part. You're going to go ahead and copy. Before you copy these, I would suggest changing the color to whatever fill color you have. That way you can't see the text. It's going to make your life so easy. Otherwise, you're going to have to do that later one by one, and that's not fun. I am going to leave a couple of them, like I'll do one of each color that's still black so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so now I'm going to take each color and I'm going to copy that stuff inside my pixel art. So basically this code needs to be inside your pixel art for it to work. And so I'm just going to take it, I'm going to copy it. If you use Control V to paste it, you can hit Control and copy a whole bunch of stuff at the same time. You're basically putting your pink dots wherever you want. I'm working on A and A was pink. So I'm just going crazy. If you'd rather have like a pattern to it, you can. It's really up to you. Or you could just select it all at once. Okay. So then I'm going to Control V and my code gets pasted there. It is going to look a little crazy. So if you want, you can change the text wrapping to clip so that you could see which ones are still blank. You're going to do that with all of the colors. You're basically going to fill this entire thing up. So this is what it's going to look like filled in. Notice how I left some still black and some still not. All right, so the hard part is over, I promise you. What you're going to do now that all of the codes are in there, you're going to highlight your pixel art, all of it, and you're going to come back over here to find and replace. And we're going to switch it back. Find J-O-R-D and replace it with an equal sign. So it's going back to the formula. Also search within formulas, just like before, and replace all. So notice my formula went back to the equal sign. I push done. So you shouldn't notice because hopefully you changed your text, but on mine it says true. Okay, and then notice if I get rid of it, it should say false if you erase it. And that's awesome. That's what we want. Okay, So now I'm going to highlight again. I'm going to make my text smaller. I'm going to put it at 6. That way, if you notice, some of your pieces are sticking out, like the T's from true and the E's from false, or the E's from true. We're just moving it to 6. And now it fits better. And then I would also come over here to borders and make sure it's all cleared out. Otherwise, you might get some weird lines. Okay, so now that we have all that, we can go ahead and go on to our next step. I decided to color it all in so that you couldn't see the true and false statements, but it should still work. So now I'm going to highlight that same section, and I'm going to right click and go back to conditional formatting so that you can see all my true and false. I could even come over here and erase, and you should be able to see some false statements. So there's some falses. I'll do a yellow. C was yellow. So yeah, that's how that works. What I'm going to do here on my conditional formatting, remember it's on my pixel art. So I'm going to come over here, and I want to do, if it's empty, I want to color it the same color as this blue background. That's what I'm going to start with. Everything's going to start with empty. So if the cells are empty, I'm also going to change the color. And then I also want to make it that if it's false, the text is exactly false. I also want it colored in. So if you notice here, if they're all empty, it works. If I have the wrong letter here, it stays blue. But once I put the correct letter in, it starts showing up, which is awesome. That's how I want it to work. So that is everything. I'm going to show you that it works. All right, good luck, guys.